Hi guys. So I thought that I would make a video of the answer key of the notes with explanations behind the problems and um, diagrams and pictures to try to help you understand the concept a little bit better. So let me know if this is helpful to you. We just finished up 6.1, which was interior and exterior angles of polygons, and we're done with that. All right, and now the next couple sections of chapter 6 are all about different shapes and properties specific to them. So we're going to start with parallelograms. Okay, so a parallelogram is just a quadrilateral, and a quadrilateral has four sides. Okay, with opposite sides parallel. All right, and just remember that parallel lines are two lines that never intersect. So for example, in this quadrilateral or parallelogram given to you, okay, these arrows show that the top and the bottom line are parallel, so they'll never intersect. And then the left and the right side are parallel, so they will never intersect. That's what those arrows mean, okay? Also, okay, we have a bunch of properties that go along with parallelograms, okay? And you're not expected to memorize these, okay? If we do any type of quiz, you will definitely be able to use your notes because I don't expect you to be able to memorize the properties, just to be able to apply them, all right? So the first property are that opposite sides are congruent, all right? And congruent just means equal. So I'm going to use tick marks here, all right, to show you that opposite sides are congruent. Tick marks mean that they're the same. So for example, if this left side was 6, the right side would be 6. If the top side is 13, the bottom side would be 13. All right, so opposite sides are congruent. Also, opposite angles are congruent or equal. All right, so that means opposite angles would be across the shape, like diagonal from each other. And we show congruent angles using our arc marks. So the purple angles would be equal and the red angles would be equal in this case. All right, opposite angles congruent or the same. Okay, third thing, consecutive angles are supplementary. And remember, supplementary means they add up to 180 degrees. All right, and consecutive just means next to in order. So, for example, if I have this bottom left angle here, if I tell you that's 50 degrees, okay, the consecutive angle would be this angle to the right or the angle above it, right? If I were going around the shape in order, the consecutive angles are right next to. So if they are supplementary, that means they have to add up to 180. So what plus 50 would give me 180? That would be 130. So the consecutive angles are supplementary. They add up to 180. All right, and the last thing is that the diagonals bisect each other. So they cut each other in half. So if I were to draw diagonals in here, all right, they would cut them into two equal parts. Okay, we're not really going to work with that one as much. We're really going to focus on 1, 2, and 3 today. All right, so all in all, okay, let's just kind of combine everything that we learned. Okay, so we learned in a parallelogram that opposite sides are congruent. Okay, so if this side was 7 centimeters, your right side is 7 centimeters. Same for the long sides. I'm going to use 2 tick marks. Okay, so if my top side is 15 centimeters, my bottom side is 15 centimeters. All right. The last thing we learned is that opposite angles are congruent. So if my bottom angle down here is 60 degrees, I know my opposite angle, or the top right, is also 60 degrees. All right, and then I also learned that my consecutive angles are supplementary. Consecutive means next to, so this angle next to 60 degrees over here would have to be 120 because they would have to add up to 180. And same thing for the top angle. It would have to be 120. All right, so that's all we need to know for working with parallelograms. Using those properties, let's try a few practice problems. All right, and as we go through some of these practice problems, the reason that this video is an Edpuzzle is I'm going to stop and let you guys submit answers to these problems on your own, just as check-ins. All right, so let's do number 1 and number 2 together. All right, so the question mark in the quadrilateral here is what we are trying to find. Okay, so if I know that my bottom right angle is 135, and I'm looking for the opposite angle, okay, we know that opposite angles are equal. So that means that this angle up here would also have to be 135. Okay. And number 2, I'm looking for the top left angle again, but now I'm given C down here as 70 degrees. So now these two angles are no longer opposite each other, but they're called consecutive. Right? And we know that consecutive angles are supplementary. So they add up to 180 degrees. So in order to find angle D, I would have to do 180 minus 70, which gives me 110. All right? So D would be 110 degrees. So using the idea of opposite angles and consecutive angles, I want you to try right now 3 and 4, okay? 3 is going to be consecutive, and 4 is going to be opposite. So tell me what the value of both of those angles would be. All right, let's move on to the property of opposite sides are equal. All right, so if I'm given the right side of 23 and I'm asked to find the opposite side over here, we know that they're equal, so this side would also be 23. Same in number 6, okay? I know that opposite sides are equal, so if I'm given ED is 12.6, FC would also be 12.6. All right? So now we're actually going to skip to 12 before we do 11, because we're going to use that idea of opposite sides are congruent. So now I'm given opposite sides, but I'm given an algebraic expression. So I need to use the idea that both of these expressions are going to be equal to solve for x. So I can take my left side, 2x plus 15, and set it equal to that right side, which is x plus 15. All right, and then I have to work backwards to solve for x. All right, so when I have x on both sides of the equal sign, the first thing I want to do is get all of my variables on one side and all of my numbers on the other. So I'm going to start by subtracting my x over to the right side of my equation. That gives me 1x plus 15 is equal to 15. All right, and then I want to get all my numbers on the other side. So I want to bring this positive 15 over to the other side, and in order to do that, I need to subtract it. So then I'm left with 1x is equal to 0, which just means x is equal to 0. Okay, and then I'm done. So now we're taking it a step further and solving an algebraic equation using the properties. All right, so I want you, using that idea, to go ahead and try 15. Okay, so you want to set up an equation that shows your opposite sides are equal. All right, and then work backwards to solve for x. All right, last problem for today. All right, so now we're still going to use the idea of algebraic expressions, but notice that we're given two angles that are next to each other. So we used a term called consecutive to describe that in our properties. So consecutive angles are supplementary, or they add up to 180 degrees. So I'm going to take these two angles, 80 and 11x minus 10, add them together, and set it equal to 180 to solve for x. When I do that, okay, I want to combine my like terms. So first thing I want to do before I start bringing things to opposite sides of the equal sign is to combine like terms where I can. So right now I have 80 minus 10, which gives me 70, plus 11x is equal to 180. Now I want to start bringing things across the equal sign. All right, so it looks like all of my x's are together, but I want to combine my values. So I'm going to subtract 70 from both sides, and I'm left with 11x is equal to 110. Final step is always to divide. So x is equal to 10. All right. So the difference here, okay, is that now instead of setting these two things equal, we're going to add them and set them equal to 180. Okay, and that's the idea of consecutive. Okay, so using that idea, I want you guys to go ahead and try 16. All right, and that's going to be your last problem for today. All right, so I hope that you guys are staying healthy, that you're well. Feel free to email me with any questions that you have. This is how we're going to run it from now on. I'm going to continue to make videos of each lesson, just so it's a little bit easier for you guys to understand and to try practice problems. So let me know how it goes, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow.